background to the place. And the first picture we're looking at, this is just to give a background, okay? And the first picture we're looking at right now, those are the walls of the Temple Mount. The walls of the Temple Mount. The current walls of the Temple Mount. Now, and then inside the walls of the Temple, I think this is a spectacular picture because it shows the walls of the Temple Mount, and inside that there's a hill. And that hill, we call that hill Mount Moriah. Okay, now when you go outside, you never see the hill. Okay, but here they're showing us so we can get the hill. And that goes back to the story of Abraham, 3,800 years ago, who brought Isaac to Mount Moriah to sacrifice him. He did not sacrifice him. Also in the foreground, it's a little bit hard to see, but there's actually a valley. There's actually a valley that's running along. Okay, so the valley we see over here.
Cherubian Valley.
The Cherubian Valley, but one second, I did it the wrong way. Obviously, I always do it wrong. Okay, you don't have to record all that. Okay, it's not working. It should work. It worked in the morning.
Yes, it's working.
Where's it working? It's not working. There it goes. Okay, the valley, this is the valley. Okay, now that valley stretches from before the Damascus Gate, and there at the outside of the Damascus Gate, it's about 765 meters high, and it goes all the way down to the Siloam Pool, which is at the bottom of the city of David, about 630 meters. Boker Tov, Manyanim. Okay, so that's okay. The first king of Israel that came to Jerusalem was King David. King David came to Jerusalem about 3,000 years ago. He had fought against Goliath, and he won. And once he won, there was a parade into the city. We're talking about in Samuel 1, chapter 17, where there's a parade into the city, and the ladies see Saul and they applaud politely, and they see David and they go, "Whoa, our hero!" And Saul gets a little bit upset. Not a little bit upset. He gets terribly upset, and he wants to kill David because he's afraid. Some people say because he's jealous. I would think it's really he's afraid politically that the nation wants to take David and make him his king. So I can just imagine he put up wanted signs all over the country. Picture of David, dead or alive. So David ran away, and David's running away. And when Saul died, there were two kingdoms. There was one in the north and one in the south. David was the king of Judah, and Saul's son was the king of the rest of the country. And after 7 years where King David is the king just in Judah, there was a civil war going on. The tribes came down to David in Hebron and asked him to become the king, to unite the tribes, all 12 tribes together, to unite the tribes together and be the king. And David said, obviously, he said yes. But then the question was, what should he do? Should he stay in his comfort area, surrounded by his tribes? Or should he move? Well, 1 second, you're making what's your name, sir?
Walid.
What, Walid? You're saying that automatically, but I'm thinking about it. If it was me, I would stay in Hebron. They still have the signs in the north, wanted dead or alive with his mustache, Okay, it would make sense, but he was a king who was thinking about his nation and not about himself. So he came to Jerusalem, conquered Jerusalem, and he brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, wanted to build the first temple. The first temple was built by his son, Solomon. And maybe this is the picture. And over here again, we see the valley. We see the valley clearly. Okay? First temple lasted, Solomon was about 960 before the Common Era. And the first temple lasted about 400 years. And then about 586 before the Common Era was destroyed, the first temple. And then 70 years later, the Persians allowed the Jews to come back and build the second temple. Second temple period, which goes from about 516 to 70, okay, has three world powers that conquered Jerusalem. First one were the Persians.
Assyrians.
First one were the Persians. During the time of the Persians, we're talking about Ezra, Nehemiah. That's the period. 2,300 years ago, the Greeks came. Alexander the
Great.
You got it. Okay, Alexander the Great conquered Jerusalem. And at the first 100 years, freedom of religion, there was no problem. 100 years later, a Greek leader comes up and he says, no freedom of religion, Jews are crazy. They fought against the Greeks, and we won. That's the story of Hanukkah. And then there was a 70-year...
Antiochus the third?
What?
Antiochus the third? Antiochus the third, right?
Yeah, you go for it. Okay. And then we have a 70-year Jewish kingdom. Now, is there water in Jerusalem? Yes. Gihon Spring, but the Gihon Spring is down in the bottom of the city of David. And they wanted to bring water to Jerusalem. How can you bring water to Jerusalem?
Aqueducts.
Aqueduct. So what you have to do for an aqueduct, what's your name?
Panayot.
Panayot.
It's one of a kind.
Panayotis.
Panayotis. Okay, Panayotis.
Zeus.
Okay, so now Panayotis, if you were the, let's get to understand. What they did was, we're talking about the lower aqueduct. The lower aqueduct. Okay, the lower aqueduct is the lower aqueduct. The upper aqueduct, lower aqueduct was built about during the Hashmonaim period, 2100 years approximately. To bring water into Jerusalem, you have to start with the water higher and then go downhill. So they found a spring 10 kilometers to the south, and they want to bring the water into Jerusalem. But there's a problem. Water has to go downhill. And in the Jerusalem area, I don't know if you noticed, but there are hills. So if you were the engineer, and you got the job from the king, okay, and you start going, and all of a sudden you see one hill, and one hill, and one hill, and one hill, what are you going to do? You have three options.
Fill it up.
You have three options. One option is to go back to the king and say you don't want the job.
Yeah.
Not a good idea. The other options are to either go around the hills or through the hills. So what would you do? I'll answer for him because I thought
The easy way.
The easy way is to go around most of the hills, and in two places they actually went through the hill, in Bethlehem and also in Arnon and Netziv. There are two tunnels from that period. And then what happened was that the aqueduct wasn't 10 kilometers long; it was 22 kilometers long. And then they reached the Jewish quarter up here, and they want to get to the Temple Mount up there.
They need the
Valley.
pressure.
They built a bridge. And the valley is so deep they needed arches to maintain the level. Okay? So in 5 minutes we're going to go down there and we're going to see those two arches going back from the Hashmonaim period. Okay, that's the concept. Later on, 63 before the Common Era, the Romans conquered Jerusalem, and they appointed a man called Herod, great builder. Now, what he did was he renovated the temple. That's the way I'm going to say it. Okay, renovated the temple. And in the picture we see the Western Wall. The Western Wall is 488 meters long. 488 meters long. And this is the part of the Western Wall we see outside. And that's only about 60 meters. And note, it's not down on street level. Meaning that the street level from 2,000 years ago. This is Robinson's Arch. That's the street. This is the area of the Davidson Center. Okay? This is Barclays Gate. That's Warren's Gate. That's the higher gate. Okay. Anyway, if we dug outside, we would expose more stones, building stones, original Herodian building stones. Okay. This is the bridge. That's the temple. The temple in the oral law, they tell us the height of the temple was about 50 meters high, 15 stories high. The Dome of the Rock is about 42, if I'm correct, something like that, a little bit higher than it. But here we get a feeling for the enormity of the Western Wall. Thinking about it, we only see 15% of it. Later on, and I'm going to skip this, during the, I got to do the destruction. 70, temple is destroyed. Roman, 70. Great revolt. The revolt. Revolt, we're crazy. Okay, we fought against the Romans. We fought against the Greeks, we won. Okay. Western Wall is still standing, not the height, but the length. Okay, and the temple is gone. And that's important because the Western Wall, the original Herodian stones, we can see them. We will see some, okay? And even though not those, we're going to see them right around that area. And then, during the Muslim period, 691, the Muslims built the Dome of the Rock. The Dome of the Rock. And they also built Al-Aqsa. But you can't see Al-Aqsa, but Al-Aqsa is right around here. Okay, this is basically commemorating the stone.
Yeah.
Commemorating the stone that was in the Holy of Holies. That was in the holiest part. Perhaps that's exactly where Abraham brought Isaac. And we'll talk about that later on. But I want you to look at what's going on over here. And that means that if there was a Muslim who wants to go, let's say 800 years ago, he wants to go to Al-Aqsa, and he's living over here, he has three options. One option is to go over here and put up a 3-story, 4-story ladder. Is that convenient?
No.
Good, thank you, Walid. Okay, or he can go to the north. Is that convenient? No. Or he can go to the end of the bridge. So what they did was, from the wall, they actually went like this. They said, we want to raise the level of the city so that it'll be easier to get access to the Temple Mount. In other words, raise the city like that, and then go like this, okay? So what they did was they used arches, and then built the houses above. Enable the people to get it easier to get into the Temple Mount. And they hid the Western Wall. They hid the entire valley. So this is what they did.
Muslim quarter.
Okay? There's another explanation. Dani Bat gives another explanation. And Dani Bat's explanation is fascinating. One second. This is what they did. Okay?
Dan
Bat, yeah. One second. One more thing, and then I'll come back to what Dani Bat said. 1967, the plaza was enlarged. We came in from right over here. So right now we're standing right around here. We're standing underneath the Muslim quarter. Dani Bat gave another explanation. And he said that in that period, the enemies were the Crusaders. And the leaders were afraid. That's what it's like over here. So if you come here to guide, first of all, one important thing. If you want to guide in the Western Wall tunnels, there are two basic tunnels. There are two basic tours. We're going to do the second one later. And that one you don't have to get special. You just have to show your whatever license. But for this tour, you have to go to a special half-day Ishtalmut, and then you can come in here. Okay, Asher, shtei dakot. He's right on time, and you guys were late. Okay, anyway, so I'll tell you Danny about later on. What we're going to do, I'm going to run ahead. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going down like this. We're starting up over here, and we're going to go down the steps. We're going to reach the level from 2,000 years ago. We're going to see those arches. We're going to stand next to a beautiful building, original from 2,000 years ago. Over there, there's a ritual bath. Come into this room, which was described by Charles Warren. Stand next to a ritual bath again, another mikveh, and come down to the Western Wall. And we're going to see 11 layers of original Herodian stones that were just exposed about 10 years ago. We are going to be at this level. Right above us will be a Jewish prayer area, and right above that is the Gate of the Chain. So people coming out of the Temple Mount stand over there, not knowing that right below them there are people praying, Jews praying, and not knowing that we are underneath. All coexistence without being aware of each other. Come, we're going.